Yeah, things seem to be working. Good morning, everyone. Good to meet all of you. My name is Vivek Natarajan. I am a research scientist in the Health AI team at Google. And today I'm going to be talking to you about AI in healthcare and providing you with a view from the trenches on the trends, challenges, and opportunities in this space. So growing up, my parents wanted me to be a doctor, but I always thought programming and computer science was cooler. And sorry to all the doctors in the room. And I ended up becoming a computer scientist. But then, life has its own weird ways. And today I'm back working in medicine, but just in a different way. And I can tell you that my parents are far more happy with my life choices right now than they were any time before. Um, sure. So going ahead, why are we here today? And I hope it's because we all share this belief that AI can transform medicine and healthcare. If not, the rest of the talk doesn't work, by the way. But yeah, jokes aside, uh, where can AI help in medicine and healthcare today? And to answer this question, I would like to point out three broad opportunities which can have a transformational impact today. The first one is about augmenting our care providers. The second one is analyzing biomedical data at scale. And the third one is accelerating drug discovery. And then jumping straight in, why do we need to augment our care providers today? It's because there is a worldwide shortage of clinical expertise. Over 1.9 billion people suffer from a skin disease globally. But in many parts of the world, there is only one dermatologist for millions of people. And the story is similar with diabetes as well. There are over 415 million people worldwide with diabetes, and these people are at risk of developing blindness. The way to prevent this is through regular screening. But unfortunately, there's a shortage of eye care specialists worldwide, which leaves all these people at risk. And the story is no different in radiology as well. The ideal ratio of radiologists to people is 1 is to 12,000 approximately. In the US, we are able to barely meet this. And in the rest of the world, yeah, the story is not pretty reading. And a corollary to this lack of, or shortage of clinical expertise is the fact that our care providers are overworked today, and they are at serious risk of burnout. And this has also meant that preventable medical errors are on the rise. In fact, research has shown that 2% of hospitalized patients experience serious preventable medication-related incidents. And this can often be life-threatening, cause permanent harm, or even result in death. And the factors that are really leading to these medical mistakes are not due to the flaws of these individual clinicians, but are rather due to deficient working systems or the working conditions over here. But AI can help. AI can help augment our clinicians. It can help reduce all these medical errors and can definitely help provide faster and better care to our patients. And then moving straight ahead, AI can also help a lot in analyzing biomedical data. Today, biomedical information is being generated at an unprecedented scale. We have data from imaging, we have data from health records, we have data from wearables and sensors, and we have a lot of data coming in from genomic sequencing. In fact, this is probably the technology that's improving at the most exponential rate. There's a lot of data to look through, but this is simply impossible for humans to do so. But again, AI can help. This is what AI is meant to do. AI is going to help us make sense of all this data, hopefully discover some novel insights, and help us provide more personalized care to patients. And the third aspect I want to talk about, or the opportunity that I want to talk about, is around drug discovery. In computing, we have this paradigm of Moore's law, which has meant that the computers have gotten faster and faster over the decades. In fact, the computers that we have, or the chips that we have in our smartphones, they are so much more powerful. They're actually several times more powerful than the computers that were used to power the lunar missions. And that's an incredible fact. But then, unfortunately, the opposite is true with respect to drug discovery. We have what's known as Eroom's law, which is Moore's law in reverse. And drug development has become slower and more expensive over the years. In fact, the aggregate R&D success rate is only 5%, and the amortized cost per approved drug is over $2.5 billion. $2.5 billion. That's a crazy number. But again, challenges mean opportunities. And there's once again an opportunity for us to use AI in the drug discovery process and improve the efficiency overall. So summarizing, I believe the three big opportunities for AI in medicine and healthcare are around augmenting our care providers, analyzing biomedical data at scale, and accelerating drug discovery. And in the next half of this talk, I'm going to give you concrete examples of the progress we have made so far. Perhaps the most exciting progress has happened in the domain of medical imaging. Why is this the case? This is because the data in medical imaging is very well suited for, I would say, the version of AI that we had developed till now, which is supervised AI systems. And to illustrate this concretely, I'm going to bring in several examples. The first example that I want to talk about is around Derm Assist. This is an app that we have been developing in our team at Google over the last several years. And the goal with this app is to empower our users to use AI to help get better information about their skin conditions. So back in 2019, we developed this deep learning model that takes in images of your skin and a few additional metadata and is able to provide a differential diagnosis of your skin conditions. We published this research in Nature Medicine, and since then we've done retrospective reader studies which show us that these models can in fact perform on par with dermatologists and can upskill PCPs and nurse practitioners. And since then, we've been using this app, trialing it in different real-world scenarios, and hoping to more broadly roll it out. This app today can diagnose over 288 conditions at dermatologist-level accuracy, and all you need to do is provide a few images of your skin, answer a few additional questions, and then you get a differential diagnosis back. And then you can ask for further help or information from this. The next example in medical imaging that I want to talk about is in radiology for cancer screening and diagnosis. Once again, in our team, we've been working on this for a long period of time. We have built AI systems that can detect breast cancer from mammograms and lung cancer from CT scans. And in both these studies, we've been able to prove that the AI systems are non-inferior or even superior to expert radiologists. And how would you actually use these AI systems in a real-world clinical workflow? Well, there are several areas where you can use. So depending on the country, the way screening is done is there's either one reader or two readers. For example, in the UK, there are two readers for every mammogram. And so there are three different points that we can easily insert this AI system. The first application could be around triaging. For example, AI can be used to prioritize the most urgent read for radiologists. And things that are like confident normals, they can be made lower priority. The second area is around assisting our radiologists in terms of providing them with feedback or help, like providing additional signals or inputs, and this can again improve the accuracy and efficiency. And the third aspect is, in case there are shortage of radiologists, we can replace a second or a third read with an AI, and this can again improve cost or efficiency. So overall, this workflow can significantly help, like inserting AI in this workflow can significantly help reduce costs and improve the accuracy and efficiency of these systems. Beyond cancer, I want to call out TB as well. TB is probably the world's deadliest killer. And this is especially true in places like India and Africa. And again, unfortunately, because we don't have enough number of radiologists, we don't have enough people to interpret the chest x-rays that we have. But the good news is a lot of folks, including my team at Google, we've been developing AI models that can take in chest x-ray images and detect the presence or absence of TB. And these models are now actually being trialed again in clinics in different parts of the world, in Africa, in India, with partnerships with several nonprofits like the Gates Foundation. And there's huge potential for patient impact using these AI systems. Another example in a similar vein that I want to call out is on ultrasound for maternal health workers. Recently in our team, we've been able to develop AI models that can help community maternal healthcare workers in interpreting low-cost ultrasound. And this model can in turn help understand what is the gestational age and whether there's fetal malrepresentation over here. The wonderful thing about these AI systems is these have been developed in such a way that they can work on low-cost mobile devices, and they can work very well and efficiently with low-cost ultrasound devices that are typically used in these places. So again, we're trialing these with nonprofits in different parts of the world to see how this is going to help upskill them. Beyond radiology, I want to next talk about pathology over here, which is another domain for cancer prognosis and treatment. This is a hard domain. And today, 1 in 12 breast cancer biopsies are either undercalled or overcalled. And in prostate cancer, the number is 1 in 7. Why is this hard? This is because tumor detection is difficult. There's a very subtle difference between benign and cancerous tumors. The second aspect is in pathology. The slide itself is huge. It's over 10 gigapixels. And the act of determining whether something is a tumor or not. It's like, figuring out whether there's a needle in a haystack. And again, this is a multi-scale problem. You need to understand the context really, really well. But once again, AI can help. So in our team, we've developed AI systems for pathology. And what we have observed is while pathologists tend to be very precise with respect to the tumors that they detect in these slides, our AI systems can help with recall. And the best part is the combination of the pathologist plus AI is actually more accurate than either alone. And this is great news. And since then, what we have done is we've actually integrated the AI into the AR microscope to assist pathologists in real time in their clinical workflows. And I would recommend you all check this paper out because this is actually a very cool device. And this is actually a very nice example of how we can actually help our care providers in real time using AI. Moving on, another domain which I want to call out is in using AI for detecting eye diseases. As I mentioned, there's a lot of people in the world who have diabetes and are at risk at developing blindness. And the typical the typical way in which we detect diabetic retinopathy is we use a specialized camera for the back of the eye called a fundus camera. And what is done is eye care specialists interpret those images and they look for blood clots, tiny blood clots. And these are actually hard to detect. And then once they look at them, they either say you don't have DR or maybe you have some grade of DR over here. But given the shortage of eye care specialists, we thought AI might help over here. And yeah, that proved right. I mean, that's probably the recurring story over here. We've been able to develop AI models that have been performing, on par with expert eye care specialists. And we've actually trialed these models and deployed them in over 1,000 clinics in India. And this is perhaps one of the best success stories of AI in medicine in the real world. And perhaps most excitingly, these AI models can actually go beyond what human doctors can see. So a doctor can only tell you at that given point of time whether you have diabetic retinopathy or not. But what these AI systems can tell you is they can also tell you what is the risk of progression. In 2 years' time, what is the possibility that you might get like mild or severe DR? And this is something that human doctors cannot do today. And thinking more broadly, we in our team believe that eyes are a window to your health. And we've shown that actually using fundus images or external images of your eye taken using smartphone cameras, they can be used to successfully estimate risk of diabetes, cholesterol, anemia, and even Alzheimer's. And all this can be done without blood tests or complex procedures. And that is great news. And sticking to the realm of things that can be done with AI that human doctors cannot do today, another example is monitoring for vital signs using your smartphone cameras. Recently, we announced a new feature in Pixel phones where you can detect your heart rate or respiratory rate using just videos of your face. Again, this is another cool example of things that can be done using regular smartphones. You don't need any wearables or sensors. And this means we can use the 4 billion odd smartphones that are there around the world and convert them into health and wellness devices. So that's it for imaging. Now I want to talk briefly about AI applications for predictive insights from health records. Perhaps the best example over here was the work done by some of my colleagues in DeepMind regarding acute kidney injury prediction for critical care patients using medical record data. This model was used to give doctors a 48-hour head start on life-threatening illnesses. And this was also deployed in the NHS in an app known as Streams. And similar work has been done along the sepsis prediction space as well, which is another important disease in critical care settings by researchers in Johns Hopkins and in a startup called as Bayesian Health. Beyond detecting illnesses, at Google, we've been building this product known as Care Studio, which is focused on bringing the power of search to medicine. So what we are hoping to do with this tool is providing clinicians with an integrated view of important patient information aggregated from multiple different sources. And we also want to provide them with insights on the go regarding the given patient. There's a video on YouTube where you can get more details, and I recommend you that check it out. This is actually a very powerful tool, and the different health systems that have been trialing them so far have been really impressed with this. The next application area that I want to talk about is life sciences. I think we've all heard about AlphaFold, and that has actually been a revolution in structural biology. And I would go on and say that it's probably arguably the most important achievement in AI till date. And its impact is not going to be just in drug discovery, but also in energy, material science, and environment. But actually now we are going beyond protein structure prediction and moving more into function prediction. So a couple of days back, some of my colleagues at Google, they released this new language model called Protein LM. And what this model does is it takes in an amino acid sequence and it produces a protein function description directly from that. This is very cool. And in fact, over 49 million odd protein names and descriptions have been added to this database known as UniProt, which is used by millions of scientists around the world. And this is going to accelerate a lot of research in this domain. Another example in the life sciences domain that I want to call out is in genomics. Our team has been working on a problem known as variant calling, and recently they put out a model known as deep consensus that's based on transformers. And these models were in turn used in work that set the world record for the fastest DNA sequence. And what is the patient impact of this? We have Matthew on the right, and Matthew had a heart condition, and the clinicians were able to determine that that was due to genetic conditions. And as a result, they were able to accelerate and put Matthew on the list for a heart transplant. So you can have a lot of real world impact today with AI directly now, and this is a great example of that. So far, this might have felt like an advertisement for Google, but that's not true. There's a lot of work happening beyond Google as well, especially in academia. A lot of work has been happening around, curating data sets, and these data sets are very incredible in terms of like benchmarking our algorithms, understanding the weak spots, and helping determine new applications and use cases. Some examples of these are the CheckSpit data set from Stanford, the Mimic data set from MIT, and Biobank, which has come through academic institutions in the UK. But it's not just work on data. Academia has been also doing a lot of impressive work on the modeling side, whether that's AI for medical imaging, like, for example, the original dermatology AI paper that came out from Stanford, or even like areas like protein folding. Similarly, friends at other big tech companies, they've also been doing impressive work in AI. Apple, with Apple Watch and Apple Health, a lot of amazing work is happening. Similarly, NVIDIA has been pushing the frontiers on federated learning for health, and Microsoft, I don't know, they probably have zillions of projects at this point of time in this domain. And finally, in startup land, I believe healthcare sector tops VC investment in AI. Over 10 billion was invested in the last couple of years with several big name startups, and a lot of them are actually doing quite well. So it's obvious that there's a lot of progress that has happened so far, but I believe we still have a long way to go. And in particular, there have been many papers. There's been actually a 150x increase in the number of research papers that have been published in this domain. But the translation to real world products has been much, much, much slower. Why is that the case? It's because taking medical AI from code to real world is hard. And in particular, there are two different aspects that we need to zone into. The first is, while the AI systems that we have today are great, they can be made better, and they need to be better for real world deployment at scale in clinics in safety critical scenarios. And the second aspect is we need more comprehensive validation of medical AI in real world clinical workflows. So diving deeper into the first aspect, what do I mean by better medical AI for the real world? I believe it's centered around these three different aspects. The first is we need our models to be more data efficient. The second aspect is around improving the generalization ability of our models. And the third aspect is around the reliability of our models. Why do we need our models to be data efficient? It's because today, largely the AI systems that we have been using is based on the paradigm of supervised learning, where they require labels. And unfortunately, getting medical data and labels is both expensive and time consuming. Sorry for the terrible images over here, but hope you got it. And the second aspect is in medical domain. I mean, there's a lot of rare data, for example, rare diseases or rare subgroups. And it's important that our medical AI models, are able to learn only from a few examples. And largely, AI systems till date have not been able to show this ability. The second aspect I mentioned was around generalization. And Andrew Ng, one of the pioneers of AI and medical AI in particular, put out this anecdote where he said that at Stanford, they built a few chest X-ray models. And what they saw was once they took the model from one hospital in Palo Alto and took it across the road to East Palo Alto, they saw that the performance went down rapidly. So this is a big issue. In fact, distribution shift is very common in medical settings. There are different kinds of distribution shift. This include like technology shifts, for example, usage of different imaging equipments. There's population shifts as you go from one country to another, or even from one city to another, or one hospital to another. And there are behavioral shifts. This is in terms of how people are using, or how people work in their actual clinical workflows. And so there was this paper in the New England Journal of Medicine that was put out, which details this in more detail and accurately captures all the different kinds of shifts that you can encounter in clinical settings. But it's important that our AI systems remain robust under all these different kinds of scenarios. The third aspect I mentioned was around reliability. And what I mean by that is we need our models to be safe and fair. We want our models to be well calibrated and know when they don't know. Doctors today are able to exactly communicate uncertainty. They are able to tell you, oh, I don't know what's happening over here. I need further tests. And we need our AI systems to be able to do the same, especially if they are going to be working with doctors and trying to augment them. And we also need our AI models to be fair and perform unbiased across different subgroups. And while these challenges are hard, it's not that we are not making progress. And I want to highlight a couple of works in my team trying to tackle these challenges. The first one is around building more data efficient and generalizable medical AI systems. And one particular challenge that you have is once you build a model for a particular domain and you deploy it in another domain, you need more labeled data. And in this work, what we attempted to do was we showed that if you were to use self-supervised learning to train these models on a large subset of unlabeled medical data, the models that you get out of this are actually a lot more data efficient, and the amount of labeled data that you need to generalize in a new setting is significantly reduced. In fact, we were able to show with our approach that we can reduce the amount of labeled data that's required in new clinical settings by over 3 to 100x. And this is huge because this translates into 10,000 plus hours of clinician time saved and potentially millions of dollars of savings in terms of developing medical AI. And I believe all this will translate into accelerating the life cycle of medical AI development. Another work that I want to highlight is in the reliability space. For example, in dermatology, I mentioned that our model is able to accurately diagnose and detect 288 skin conditions, but you all know that in the real world, there are tens of thousands of skin conditions that are possible. Unfortunately, for a lot of them, we don't have enough data. But when we encounter these models in the real world, we need to be able to abstain from them. And so this is called an out-of-distribution detection problem. And what we did in this work was we built an AI system that was able to very accurately determine whether an input image is from a skin condition that's not part of your training data. The way we did this was, again, using the representation learning secret sauce that I mentioned in the previous paper. It uses a self-supervised learning model, and then it combines with another loss that we call as hierarchical outlier detection loss. And this two combination helps us significantly improve models in terms of their out-of-distribution detection performance. And so these are the results. We got significant gains, and we've actually deployed this in the DermAssist app. And then the second aspect that I mentioned previously was, in addition to having better AI, medical AI models, we also need our models to be comprehensively validated in real-world clinical workflows. In fact, a couple of years back, Eric Topol put out this tweet where he said that there have been only 5 randomized controlled trials of AI in medicine till date. In fact, I don't believe that number has increased much, especially because the last couple of years was the pandemic. But we need this. In fact, we need to validate our AI in clinical workflows. And I would want to call out this particular study from some of my teammates, where they took the diabetic retinopathy models that we had and trialed them in real clinics in Thailand. And what they found out that while getting high performance in the lab is, okay, it's challenging, but you can get it done. But translating that model performance to real-world clinical impact is a completely different ballgame. And in fact, they found out that you need to consider, you need to provide serious consideration to several socioeconomic factors to get this to work well. I would definitely recommend checking out this paper. It has a lot of interesting nuggets in terms of what it takes to actually translate medical AI from code to real-world impact. So summarizing, I think the next step or the next challenge for medical AI in terms of going from code to real-world impact is around making our models better, more data efficient, generalizable, and reliable. And also in terms of improving, in terms of ensuring that we are comprehensively validating the medical AI models in real-world workflows, and we're measuring what we really care about. In the last part of the talk, I want to maybe sketch out the long road ahead and provide a vision for the future of medical AI and AI in healthcare. Overall, I believe that it is not a question of if AI will transform medicine and health, but rather when and how. I'm not going to make guesses on the when because that involves a lot of variables, but I think I have a fairly good handle on the how. I think the first aspect that we're going to see a big shift towards is more around these foundational medical AI models. In particular, medical data is inherently multimodal in nature, but these days we have had rapid progress with self-supervised learning, which means that we actually don't need labels, but rather we have AI models that can make sense of all this data at scale. And this is a very natural framework for us to leverage this richness and build truly foundational medical AI models. And the second aspect where we're going to see a lot of progress and a lot of innovation happening is building AI systems to be truly cooperative in nature. I talked about AI augmenting clinicians and giving them superpowers, but if we notice how we are building these AI systems, they're actually built in silos. But increasingly, what we are going to see is we are going to build more interactive AI systems, making use of models like GPT-3 and other language models that can actually directly communicate to clinicians in natural language and get feedback from them and iteratively improve and help them in workflows. And hopefully, all this is going to lead back to systems that are going to, help doctors a lot in their workflows and give them time back so that they can actually focus on providing care. And the last aspect is we're going to increasingly see personalized medical AI. There's no doubt there's this data revolution that's happening, not just at the patient level, but also not just at the aggregate level, but also at the individual patient level. A lot of rich and different varieties of data that are coming in, and we're going to be using AI to make sense of this. But then there is also progress happening in areas like federated learning, privacy-preserving learning, which is also going to help us, build more and more personalized medical AI systems. And what this all is going to mean is we're not going to have medicine that's one-size-fits approach for all, but rather we're going to have precision medicine at scale. And ultimately, I believe with AI, we're going to have the ultimate learning health system, where every health decision is going to be contextualized by the past, and this is going to be used to make better decisions for people in the future. So I'm going to end with a question. Based on this, do you all think it is possible we can create a more accurate, more accessible, less expensive, and more human health system with AI? If you have an answer, please raise your hand. Okay. I see a few hands. I hope the overwhelming majority is yes. And for the rest, I guess you need a coffee. But that's it. I end my. But yeah, I end my talk over here. Thank you.
He was so spooked out by it that he actually went public, and you know the story. What is the current status of that, where he basically claimed that AI is sentient? You remember?
Yeah.
What's the latest on that?
What's the gossip? Tell us the gossip.
Yeah, what's inside scoop?
Yeah, I think there might be some public releases on that front.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's you know my answer. I don't have to tell.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask is kind of ties into the whole AI thing. Is this whole I missed part of it, but to what extent is AI going to take over the real thinking and the creativity behind the health, life science creativity? So do you think that AI is going to have creativity sometime? Where do you think that line is for healthcare?
Yeah, I think there are different forms of creativity. What today's AI is particularly going to be good at is assimilating a lot of human knowledge out there, which no individual human can do. Like, GPT-3 processes 50 terabytes of data. No human can do that. And being able to interpolate in that space. If you call that creativity, I think today's AI can do that. The next aspect is around extrapolation. And I think we're going to get models that can also extrapolate as well in the near future if they're not able to do that today. But I guess maybe for me, real creativity is out of box thinking. And I don't think our AI systems are there yet, but it might be possible in the future. So yeah, all this to say, I think, there are, different levels of creativity, and I think certain things are possible today and certain things might emerge in the future. But yeah, and all this is going to have a transformational impact in general, just at different timescales.
Hello, Dr. Vivek. Thank you so much. I'm Eric, and thank you for your wonderful talk. I was just wondering, in your experience, you have this amazing technology, you are close to the development process. My question is, in your experience, how hard it is to approach the medical community to ask them to use your technology as a support, right? Like, can you provide some experience on that? Like, is it hard, easy? Are they open to use it?
Yeah, I think generally people today are quite positive about AI. There's all this buzz that's happening, and yeah, I think medicine has its own set of challenges around regulation and who pays for these systems and everything. So I think that's where the real question comes in. But in terms of trialing the systems, people have been mostly open to it. We have, for example, received funding from universities, from governments to trial these systems. And again, yeah, the response is not even, I would say. Different countries are progressing at different rates. But overall, I would say the trend is very positive. People have shown a willingness. I mean, I think everyone can see that this is the future. It's just that, I mean, the incentives aligning for all of them to adopt it. And it's not going to happen uniformly. It's going to take time, but hopefully everyone gets to benefit from this in the near future.
All right. So it's very interesting. You're showing a lot of AI being able to read scans and stuff. And it strikes me that in the application of AI to medicine, the acquisition of the raw data is actually kind of the bottleneck. What would be your dream in terms of being able to feed a data set in for analysis that you don't have access to right now?
Yeah, I think that's been the big challenge. Like a lot of the work that I showed so far, they all rely on proprietary data sets where we work with hospitals to get access to them. And again, privacy is a very core tenet over here. I think the dream scenario would be we have this network infrastructure where all hospitals are working together to create this data grid of medical data, right? And it's like just like we have electricity grids, there's like data grids of medical data flowing in together. But again, it's all like privacy is baked in, built in. No one can actually see the data, but that you can actually train AI systems on that. I mean, this goes into federated learning and privacy preserving learning, and I think that's probably going to happen. I don't know if one company is going to build it out or whether the community has to come together and build it out. But if you're able to build that out and make use of every health data that's out there in the real world, I think that's going to be transformational. I think that's going to happen. I don't know the time scale over here and who's going to do it.
Hi, Clarion with Medical Intelligence One. I've seen sometimes people will start from a clinical problem and say, how do I figure out, find whatever technology is needed to solve that problem. And then alternatively, you can start from, I have a technology. What can I do with this technology? What seems to be sort of Google's approach? Are they coming from, I have a technology, what can I do with it? Or I have a clinical problem, how can I solve that?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Till date, I would say a lot of the work that we have done has been grounded in the clinical problem. I mean, we do know that AI is a powerful technology, but you need to figure out where to apply it. And so I would say a lot of the work that we've done, that's actually been driven by clinicians and doctors in our team. They tell us what's the highest impact projects that you can work on, what's the highest impact research that you can do. And they help us figure out the problem setting, the domain, and the metrics and everything. And so that's why it's a lot of fun working with all these expert clinicians and researchers, because it's a lot of interdisciplinary work. But it's also obvious that AI is increasingly becoming a platform technology, especially if you can look at models like GPT-3 and DALL-E. There's going to be a lot of billion-dollar plus companies being built on it, and that's going to be the same with in medicine as well. I think these are now increasingly becoming general-purpose AI models, and so then the question is, what are the kind of things that I thought were not possible before can I do today with these AI systems? And I think that's another class of problems that we will increasingly try to answer. In general, I think if you ask people, people have this dream of, we will first solve AI or AGI and then use that to solve science and perhaps medicine as well. I think people still believe in that. And that might happen.
Awesome. Well, we have to move on to our next panel. Thank you. I guess give a round of applause for Vivek again, please. Thank you.